Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups, limited beliefs, and some other stuff. Let's get into it. No contact. How long till they come back? This is a big question. A lot of people ponder. A lot of people lose sleep over when they're in a breakup or they're anticipating a breakup. You get in this position where, okay, I know I don't need to call them. I know we're not talking. But then when you get down to 2 days, 3 days, 4 days of not talking, and then you go through all these videos on YouTube that are like no contact, and you go, well, how long will it take? Right? Number one, great question. Who knows? Anyone that says they know, be skeptical. Be skeptical. Okay? When I talk to people, I say, you know what? First of all, a lot of times it's like, oh, what's the chances? Those kinds of things. And I'll kind of joke, which is number 3. What's the odds in Vegas? You have the best insight on that. You know your partner better than I do. But then when we unpack it in a live session, we can go through some things, open up some rabbit holes and get a little deeper because you're hiding from things. Because everyone's highly biased to what happened. Okay? So, it's a great question. So let's just start with that. It's a question. It's a good one. There's no definitive answer. It's not math. The only facts in the world are 2 + 2 are 4 math facts. Okay? So when someone's like, "Oh yeah, it'll be this long." It's speculative. Now there's some people out there that have more of a pulse on a situation like myself that's been doing breakups for 5 years. All right? So a hypothesis is an educated guess. You still are going to get an educated guess with a range. No one's going to go at this time, at this day. So it's a great question, except that it's a great question that can't be answered in a factual way. Number 2, are you a speculator? This is a great question to counter with. Do you like to speculate on things? If you like to, because you can sit there and speculate, I don't know, for 2 months, 3 months, 2 hours, 5 hours. But the reality is it's a great question. You won't know the exact answer. So if you can accept that, and then you go, I don't want to know. Okay. Or I don't want to force myself to answer this question. There's ways to go about this. So when we do a live session, one thing that really helps is to talk for an hour. Most of the times it's 2 hours. And just basically what you're doing is just getting everything out in an hour and a half, 2 hours about your breakup, which a lot of people don't want to hear. They listen to you for 10 minutes and they go, hey man, get over it. Or they tell you you could do better, or they tell you I never liked her. The list goes on, right? So number 3, what's the odds in Vegas, right? This is a funny answer to a serious question, but sometimes you got to laugh at yourself. What would be the odds in Vegas if you gave yourself odds? To me, it comes down to this. Okay? You know how good a partner you were, and you know the odds of the individual's character and personality if you were with them for over 2 years. You got to read on the type of person they are. Some people are dug in, stubborn, angry, looking for reasons to prove how tough they are. Those are the types of people that won't come back anytime soon because it's built into their character. It's who they are. It's what they do, right? They have other family and friends that they'll never talk to again. And you look at the reasons why they don't talk to them and you're like, wow, that seems extreme. That seems a little heavy. Well, you're next. If you're in a situation where they don't want to talk to you, they're going to be dug in. Now, if they're an individual that gives in, they have a lot of pity and empathy and compassion, they're a soft spirit, a soft soul, kind, there's more of a chance that they would give in on a no contact. Now, the circumstances count. Now, number 4, do you believe they come back? Do you believe they'll come back, and why? Because some people are just like, oh, they'll never. If we're talking, you're like, I believe they'll come back because we've done this 10 times before. Now the next question I'd ask that you wouldn't know is, well, what's changed over the last few months that is different? If they're like, they got a new job or a new set of friends, they've been going out drinking a lot more than they used to. Well, that's a different circumstance. So a lot of times they want to see what it's like to be able to go out with new friends, try on a new costume, a new identity. This is quite frequent in girlfriends in their mid to late 20s that have been with a guy from 21 to 25 to 21 to 27, those kinds of age range. It's a very common theme that the girl is still getting a lot of attention. She starts hanging around other single friends, and women are always in competition. And now she just wants to see what it's like to be single. That might not be the reason she broke up with you, but that's the theme. In that particular situation, she might come back, but she needs to try out being single. And then by the time she tries out being single, possibly gets worn out, do you want her back, right? Number 5, were they still attracted to you when it ended? This is actually probably one of the biggest ones that people overlook, because people like to be, oh, attraction's not as big a deal, this or that, or what. It counts. And attraction is not just looks, it's personality, it's charisma, it's status. And a lot of times people look at this and they think women are just attracted to men with status. Men are attracted to women that have status too, whether that's looks, whether that's job, career, whether their family's rich. Those things count. So when you end the relationship, one sign that you're not attracted or they're not attracted to you any longer is the intimacy hasn't been good. You guys haven't kissed for 3 months. They've been pushing you away. They've been cold more than you care to admit. If that's the case, they're not coming back anytime soon, unless there's someone that doesn't have a lot of options. Okay. And the way you can gauge this when I'm talking to someone in their breakup situation is when you ended, were you still having intimacy regularly? Did the person actually tell you how much they're into you or attracted to you? Did they look into your eyes? I've had clients where they broke up on the spot, and before they left, they had a deep, passionate French kiss, if you call it that still, right? A deep, passionate kiss, and she's telling him, I really don't want to do this. I'm going to miss you so much. And she's looking into it. She's still attracted to him. Okay. That doesn't mean she's going to come back in a day. In this particular case, I'm talking about someone that cheated. So she had a definitive, strong reason to stay away. But I'm saying what's going to pull at her heartstrings is attraction. So if someone's still attracted to you when it ended, especially if it's physical, intimate, sexual attraction, okay, those things are strong. So if that's the case, and you usually know if that's the case, unless you're just being blindly biased. Well, I'm not sure. Usually when I talk to people in live coaching sessions, we know by the end of the session, it's like, yeah, they're still attracted to me. And it's funny because guys will be like, I'm 6'3", I go to the gym, da-da-da-da. It's like, okay, right? That will play on it because attraction post-breakup is important, because the funny thing, it leads into the next thing about status. What's your financial status? So these are two things that overcome financial status, and attraction overcome a lot of trade-offs. What do I mean by that? If someone's got an annoying laugh, if someone snores at night, if someone flirts too much with your friends, if you have financial status and attraction, or one or the two, these are anchors for someone to stay with someone else. Okay. And now, the financial status, oh, I'm not shallow, I'm not like that. I'm just saying, overall, it's like I used to be in real estate in my early 20s, mid 20s. And they used to have these situations where you'd have multiple offers. So you'd have multiple offers on these houses, and there'd be 7 offers, 10 offers. People would write letters. Oh, we're a family of 3. Oh, we're like the Brady Bunch. Oh, we would really take care of your house. We love your house so much. And they'd offer asking price when there's 7 offers, knowing that there's going to be people that offer over 20 grand over asking, 40 grand. 90% of the time, the people take the money and they go, oh, wow, nice letter. And you read them the letter and they're like, oh, yeah, money talks, right? It's a different game. So it's not everyone, but financial status, if you have a high financial net worth and the other person is not near that, they'll take a lot of crap, okay? And they'll want to come back unless they find someone equal or higher value. Now, number 7, this is one thing that I can suggest why no contact is good for a lot of people, because surface talk doesn't do it. You've been trying surface talk. What is surface talk? When you break up, there's layers. There's layers and layers and layers of why you broke up. Contempt and I just don't want to be with you. You can do better than me. These are surface comments. There's way more storyline to that. Okay. And so when you start saying, oh, I'll change or I'll be better or I love you so much or I've never been with someone better, surface talk. Okay. Someone that wants to break up has built a case. They're ready to go and they at least want to see what it's like for a week or two, a month, 2 months, right? And if you give them radio silence, no contact, it feels a lot different than you weaning them off the relationship and being like, oh, come on. Because as long as you're on the phone with them or texting them post breakup, you're at the disadvantage. They have all the leverage and you're a spare tire. They're basically saying, you know what? If the wheels fall off on this single thing, I got you. And it's really reassuring, actually. It puts them in a very secure, relaxed place. And so you're putting yourself at a place where you're not worth a whole lot. You're a spare tire, you're an extra, you're a backup plan. And the longer you're a backup plan, the more they're like, well, let me try this a little longer. Let me go a little further with this because worst case scenario, I can always go back to them. All right. Number 8, why no contact takes time and always works in your favor unless you were just a horrible partner. So that's the caveat. No contact will always work in your favor because it works 2 different directions. Opposite, but both are serving you. One, it creates scarcity, which is attractive to your partner. Your partner has been with you for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and now they can't talk to you. You just go cold turkey, right? It's really difficult. Now, if they don't want to get back with you because they've built this case and they have their reasons, but you were a pretty good partner. You have financial status. You're pretty attractive. You got confidence. You got charisma. You got a good family life. You got camaraderie. The list goes on. And you go, yeah, no, I was good to her. I was good to him. I was good to my partner. Whatever it is, right? No contact will work in your favor. If you were horrible, if you were bad to that person and they get out of the relationship, most likely it's not coming back anyways. So you might as well get no contact, work on yourself, lick your wounds and move forward and be honest with yourself. Go, you know what? I was a needy piece of crap wreck while I was in that relationship. Be honest with yourself. All right. All right. Let me get into the live stream a little bit. Jesse, if you're still on, nice to see you, bro. How you doing? G, money, always money. They never come back, and that's a good thing. Paltry Flowers, it's been a while. I hope you're good. This is a different time that I usually come on. I got 2 stories on deck, so if you want to stay tuned for that. And if anyone's got any questions they want to ask or any topics you want me to touch on, that's fine. If someone wants to hop on for a minute and ask some questions about a situation you're in right now, you could also do that with this particular live stream. The copy to that is right here. I'm not going to go too long because it's pretty late over here for me. I am not usually a night owl. It's 10:30 p.m. where I'm at. So let's see here. How random is that? I'm in Thailand. You're in Estonia. Good for you, man. I've met people from Estonia. Nice people. 1836. So that's perfect, right? I like the military time too. I didn't even know what military time was until I lived abroad. All right. So we got a story on deck. It's a situationship. I've been getting more of these, which basically means you're not in a breakup, but you're on the verge or you're at a fork in the road in your relationship. What's really interesting, this is a good time to talk because once you break up, everyone knows it's hard to go back. When you're in a situationship, you're at a crossroads, negotiations are still on. Okay. Things are opening up. There's still some possibilities. And this would be the best time to talk to me because it's like reverse engineering. There's someone here to talk to that knows what leads to a breakup. And like I said, right now, I'll just help you clarify what the problems are because a lot of people are lying to themselves about their problems or they're glazing over them. And really at the bottom, and I've done this before myself, you complain about the problems, but you just don't think about the solutions. Like what are the options? And every problem has multiple solutions that are options. A lot of times in coaching sessions, I'll throw out a solution and someone go, oh, no, I couldn't do that. And then they'll go, but you know what? Actually, I could do this. Because once you start throwing out solutions, the human mind goes, well, I got one better than that. And now you're both on the same. If someone corrects me and goes, that's a horrible solution, or I would never do that. Fine. What do you think? Is there something better? Right? So you got to look at it from other angles, because a lot of times you're locked in. Oh, we're just stuck in this situation, right? We can't get over this. All right. So first story. What time is it? 15:27 on the mark here. Got 5 on deck. Feel free to share on the super chat. Like I said, if anyone, you got a girlfriend now, Jesse? Congratulations, my friend. Just saw that. All right. Hey, Coach Mac, I appreciate your channel and the work you do. I'm currently in one of those situationships where we've got some issues that aren't going away. My girlfriend and I have been together for over 2.5 years now. We broke up about 2 months ago, and I got back together 11 days later. I was okay with the breakup, as over the years she's tried to break up with me probably 5 times or more, each time blaming me or not taking care of her or not being generous enough with money. All right, so those are the problems. Now, if it's theme-based rather than situation-based, so if you got a theme like, oh, you don't care about me, that's an umbrella that could mean many things. That means that she's got insecurities, that she's not enough, that you're better than her. And really, if someone's repeating that, they're going to find things subconsciously to fit that generalization. It's not a good position to be in, especially if you think like, well, I do care, and you keep having to explain yourself. If you're saying, and not generous enough with money, would you agree that you're not generous? Have other people told you that? And I would add to that, is it a fair statement? Okay. I'm guessing no for you. We always ended up making up, but she'd just go into tears and start accusing me of character issues that I didn't feel were valid at all. So then I explained myself while she was crying, but she wasn't crying in pain. It was almost more like tears mixed with disgust or contempt. That's a horrible mix. I'm not going to say that's toxic. I'm going to say that's horrible. If you put that in a mocktail, it wouldn't be a very good drink to drink. So if you're saying that this is a regular thing, we ended up making up, breaking up, and she'd always be in tears and start accusing me of these. So this is a playbook she's running on you. When she has a problem or she's upset, she doesn't even know she's doing it, but she's like, all right, let me get the tears going. All right, let me take some jabs at his character. And then voila, I've won the argument. He's on bended knee. He's saying sorry. And now I feel like I'm back in control. Right. And if she's got disgust and contempt with tears, and I know what you mean by that, because crying doesn't always mean someone's sad. Someone can cry in anger. Someone can cry out of contempt. That's true. And that's a different ballgame. She had told me proudly that her only 2 boyfriends prior to me were easy for her to break up with, and that they kept wanting her back, and she just turned her back on them. Who's next? So that's one of those things. Good news is she only been with 2 guys prior to you, right? So the body count's not high, probably. But that being said, if she's proud of that, I don't know how she displayed that to you, if you're exaggerating or what, but that's something that she feels is a strength. When an individual gets the opportunity to show a strength of theirs, they'll do it. So look out. Now, when we got back together, I was shocked to hear her open up and tell me she was sorry and realized it was all her fault, and that I was her first boyfriend that she really missed. So you're special in that sense, huh? All right, well, most importantly, if someone breaks up with you, you feel like they were the one in the wrong, and they come back and apologize and are accountable, that's actually the first step. Because if you can't get to that point, and you take each other back just out of passion, intimacy, and a fear of being alone, and the other person's like, I'm still angry at you, well, you're still going to fight then. They have to come back and go, hey, I was wrong. She also said she wouldn't use breaking up again as a way to win arguments. She was super good girlfriend these last 2 months, and honestly, overall, before that, she was good. It was just if she gets upset about something prior to her menstrual cycle, about 2 days. I actually know what you mean by that. It's kind of funny. Women 2 or 3 days before the menstrual cycle, right, can get extra moody. Not all women are the same, though. But I've known a few that I'm like, wow, you can just tell they're almost in tears. So this is one of those things, a lot of guys deal with it. I would say it's extreme if it leads to breakups. If it's just her being in a moody thing, I would say get your space, go for a walk, immediately recognize, is it 2 days before you're getting your period on? And then tell her, like, I'm just gonna get out of the house, and don't take anything for granted unless you have another 2 or 3 days to talk when emotions change, right? Because one thing about 2 days before the cycle, or a woman dealing with her menstrual cycle and those kinds of things, it's gonna change, right? She's gonna get back to her normal state in 2 or 3 days, hopefully. She just gained momentum, then lose it. So just to reframe it, it was just that she gets upset about something prior to her menstrual cycle about 2 days. I would ask too, does she know that about herself? I mean, I could do a whole show on that, because I remember a girlfriend I had for 5 years, 4.5, 5 years, and lived with, she never had moodiness, but she took a pill, right? And then a girlfriend after that was like, wow, you're really moody during this time. I had some coworkers like that. So it's different with different women. The fact that the moodiness leads to breaking up, emotional tears of contempt, that's extreme. I would say that that's on deck already. And, it's a matter of time till she blows up on you. Now, just a day ago, I've seen a glimpse of this again. So just to recap, if anyone's lost, they broke up and they got back together 2 months later. So he's saying basically it's all good, but now just a day ago, I've seen a glimpse of it again. She hasn't threatened to break up, but I can tell the volcano has some smoke. And she tends to create a whole argument that doesn't make sense. That's an emotional argument usually. This time it was about the fact that her older brother, whom was staying with us because he was in a breakup, what happened was that he asked to stay the night and she asked me. I said that was fine. And now one night turned into 2 weeks. And I asked her that I needed to talk to him about his plans and how long he actually planned to stay. She took this personal and went off about how it's not my family and maybe I want to charge him rent. And that by asking him that I'd be rude if it was my family, she'd let them stay as long as they like. But she understands it's my house, so I can decide. She's bubbling underneath because I know she wants to get married. Okay, so let me just address this. I think you're completely in the right. If you have a family member of your partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, or wife that wants to stay with you, and they say that they want to stay 1 or 2 days, and then they end up staying longer, you have a right to ask, well, what's going on here? Because I just thought it was a day or so. If that gets flipped into, oh, you don't care about my family and something bigger, that's not fair. And a lot of people do this. Well, if it was me, I would do this. If it was me, I would do that. First of all, you're not in the situation. Number 2, we're different people, right? Is the answer. And this is something you come up in relationships. It's a constant theme that I would do this. Why don't you do that? Right? I would do this. Why don't you do that? I'll get to the comments in the live stream in a moment. So just keep them coming. Any questions you have, when I finish this story, I'll get to it. Now, just a day ago, I've seen okay, so she understands it's my house, so I can decide. She's bubbling underneath because I know she wants to get married as she's 35 and wanting kids. And anytime it's mentioned, it's my house, light tears come out as she loves the house and feels like I should put her name on it eventually, even though she pays nothing towards it and it's paid off. It's just a sore subject. Well, if she's 35 and you've been together 2.5 years, yeah, that's the sweet spot for a lot of women. Biological clock's ticking, want to have kids, want to get married. It's understandable where she's coming from. how you decide if that's right or not right, I would say that if you guys broke up, 2 months ago, that sets things back. Because to me, if you break up and get back together, all right, you're giving it a chance. But what you don't, what maybe she doesn't realize, even though you got back together, you still got it in the back of your mind. Well, we broke up once recently, so we got to reestablish this. All right. So I understand her biological clock is ticking and that she deserves a man to put a ring on her finger, but I've never been married and I'm 39 and I'm open to it. But based on the fact that we just broke up 2 months ago, I feel like things are still under review to take that step. And I just don't like these episodes where she loses her crap. Doesn't it sound weird to say lose your crap? I'm with you, man. If you've experienced over 5 times where you broke up to make up in 2.5 years, it's probably going to happen more times again. The fact that you got back together and you want to give it another chance because she was accountable and sorry, and she's been good so far, I think that's well worth it. Now, I would just say there's a shorter leash on this relationship than there was before. You don't want to go through another 2 years of 5 more threats for break. Like right now, you're like, all right, you broke up once. If the same problem happens again or similar, then you just got to realize you have a choice. You can accept it, you can adapt to it, or you can say, I'm not taking this. A lot of times people think, oh, I don't have a choice. You have a choice. And those are you can accept it. Like some people, you're like, wow, you accept that? Well, happy wife, happy life. You adapt to it means you come up with a solution that will work for both of you, or it's maybe 60-40, 70-30. You get creative. But in a situation like this where someone's emotionally unstable at times, I mean, one of the things you could do that if you wanted to be creative, you're like, all right, if the spot where she gets really upset is 2 days before her period and that's consistent, you might just want to get out of the house, be scarce. I mean, that's sacrificing walking on eggshells or something. I'm just saying this is where you would adapt to it rather than run from it. But if you can't take it and it just becomes a continued problem and it's affecting you and you break up to make up, then you got to choose. Now, if you just accept it, you'll probably be better at dealing with it. I'm not suggesting that you accept it. You need to make that call for yourself. But always remember, accept, adapt to it with a solution, or I'm done. This is non-negotiable. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be in a relationship like this. I can do better. I've been in better. Especially if you're in a relationship where you're like, I've been in better relationships before, so this isn't just me, where we had better communication. But based on the fact that we broke up 2 months ago, I feel like things are still under review to take that step. And I just don't like, so let me just recap. I understand her biological clock is ticking and that she deserves a man to put a ring on her finger. But I've never been married and I'm 39 and I'm open to it. But based on the fact that we just broke up 2 months ago, I feel like things are still under review to take that step. And I just don't like these episodes where she loses her crap. I've got friends that I know that have gotten married to women like this, whom ended up being monsters once they had their first kid and knew the assets were in both their names. All right, you can compare your girl to your friend's girls, but really it's human beings are intricate and they're never the exact same. So is it a possibility that there's some similarities there? Yes. Now, do you lose leverage being that you already own a house? So you have more to lose? Absolutely. It's not cut and dry that someone's just going to be like your friend's wife. And it does affect you because you look at it, you're like, wow, that's a horrible situation to be in. Right? This woman, from what you said, doesn't seem like a monster. She seems very moody. I don't have a lot of money, but I love my house, and I'd hate to feel like if she got emotional that she'd have the newfound leverage to get a divorce and take the home. Well, then don't get married and don't put yourself in that situation, because that's always a situation. If you're thinking about it now, here's the crazy thing about the subconscious mind. You might create situations to make that true if that's a fear of yours. So the idea that that's even on your radar is a possibility, even if your friends planted that seed with their bad situations. I would say that you need another year or two of good behavior probably she needs some kind of therapy to figure out why she gets in these states where she just wants to break up. I guess what I'm saying is I don't trust her to not be emotionally irrational idiot once every 3 months. What a way to put it. Emotional, irrational idiot. If you feel like that's why it's good to write this stuff out and be anonymous. If you are calling your girlfriend that, there's a problem of 2.5 years. If you're, and you're not even saying it joking, LOL, you're saying like, yeah, this is how she is every 3 months. If you're together for 6-7 years and something happens to make her more emotional, losing a family member, having a job where she loses her job, like, things happen in life where emotionally unstable people have big issues. And if they're your partners, there's minefields throughout life, right? And so if you're anticipating that now, I would say probably long-term, you're taking a chance. It's tough because there's so many good things about her, but this emotional side that threatened to break up with me multiple times, I'm not sure that's going away ever. I don't have grounds to break up, but I want to and feel it's going to happen. Do I just wait for it to happen as I'm not sure I have a reason to now? Well, I mean, you just wrote out your reason by calling her an emotional, rational idiot once every 3 months. A lot of people do this. They wait for a bomb to go off to have a reason. It's never a good time to break up. It's never going to feel good when you still have feelings. The other thing you guys could do is couples work, or you could do a session with myself and unpack some things, have her do a session with me. You really got to let her know what the problem is, which it sounds like you addressed it when she came back when you broke up. But whenever you break up multiple times in 2 years, it's a really bad sign. It's a really that shouldn't be a way to play in a relationship. I'm not sure that's going away ever. I don't have grounds to break up, but I want. And then, let me just go back to that one point. When you break up to make up multiple times, in the back of your head, it becomes a part of your relationship, and it's completely unhealthy because it's too high and low. And someone ends up going, all right, this time I'm not coming back. And the other person goes, oh, wait a minute. What did I miss? This is what we usually do. Do I just wait for it to happen? I'm not sure. And I know that she seems to love me more, if that can even be measured. Oh, well, it can be measured by you, not me, because you're in the relationship. If you care less, I've just never been one to be attached to my girlfriends, and she's actually very attached to me. Well, that might be one of her frustrations and her moodiness, is that her past boyfriends were probably more attached, hence the reason she broke up with them, because they were needy, and you're a new animal to deal with. And the interesting thing about someone that's not very attached is it's attractive, but it frustrates people because it's a challenge. But once you're in a relationship and you're together for 2 years, it can wear on someone if you're unattached. But she said sorry, this is choppy. I've just never been one to be attached to my girlfriends, and she's actually very attached to me. But she said she liked that I'm not like her. Now I'm rambling. Is there something I'm missing here? What do you think I should do? I think right now you have some options. So, number one, you've identified she's emotionally unstable. This can be an issue. You've already broken up once in 2.5 years. There's been over 5 times that you've been in the midst of breaking up and then made up. These emotional outbursts are probably not going away. The idea that you think she's emotionally irrational idiot, that's a big one. That's a character flaw. This is in her character, or is this situational? So people can get emotionally stumped or upset about certain situations, right? I mean, car accidents. What else? Losing a loved one, their pet dies. I mean, there's certain situations where people are on sensitive ground, and you can understand where they're coming from. They lost their job of 10 years. It's their career. Those things actually affect your relationship because they're traumas, they're upsetting, they're identity altering, and they affect the individual in the relationship. So they'll be more emotional. They'll be more sensitive. Someone loses their dog, they're more sensitive in the relationship. And someone will be like, what happened? I don't understand. It's like, well, it has nothing to do directly with you. It's just that they're spent emotionally, and anything that comes up is going to be amplified. If someone's finding ways every month because of her menstrual cycle to lose her cool or to overreact, is a simplified word, and you keep having to put out a fire on this, right? That's not cool, man. And that's going to be a reoccurring theme. Like I said, you got a choice. When you're in the relationship, you've got a choice. It's different than dating or figuring out things or courting or your first 6 months in the honeymoon. You're in 2.5 years. So you're like this. And this is what, like, that's why it's good. It's a situation. This is good to write this out. You got a choice. Accept that she's emotional and that you're going to have to deal with it once a month or whatever it is. Accept that she's emotionally irrational, right? The idea that she's an idiot's a different thing. Adapt to it, or just say, I'm not dealing with this. And you're mentioning marriage. So if you already have these problems, I definitely wouldn't get married anytime soon. That's, I think, totally agreed on. Pulling the plug on this right now, because you're like, oh, I don't have direct grounds to, it would be courageous, because a lot of guys, you know, from the outside, go, oh yeah, I would just break up. You obviously have your feelings involved. You're still attracted to her. So you need more things to happen before you break up. I'm going to be honest, though, it seems inevitable that you're going to break up. So whether you do it now or you do it later, what a lot of people do, men and women, people always say this about women, it's just that some particular women have more options and guys are bitter. But if you're in a good place, you're in good shape, you feel good about yourself, what a lot of people do, and I'm not condoning this, I'm not telling you to do this, they line up options. Doesn't mean they're guaranteed options. They just go, hey, someone I kind of talk to, there's someone that if we did break up, I definitely want to go out with. And they do it subconsciously. They don't even do it planned. And so I would, if we were doing a live coaching, I'd ask you, are you lining up some other options here? Because the minute you line up a few different options, and what I mean by that is just individuals you're interested in that you think are candidates or contenders to date. And you feel like there's a chance that if you were single, they would be available. The hard part about this is if you break up, those contenders, those I think someone told me they call them afterburners. No, maybe I got that wrong. Burners, like on the stove. Basically, those aren't guarantees. You're in a relationship, and the reason people like relationships, it's like we know we're together. There's a guarantee of somewhat guarantee there. When you go single and you're like, oh, I'm interested in Sally, and we talk at work sometimes and she smiles, and if I'm single, I'm going to ask her out. You could ask her out and she could not be interested, or she could be like, oh no, I'm talking to someone. Oh, and then you're like, oh, what did I do? So that's why a lot of times people stay in relationships they have a lot of trouble with, because they don't have a replacement. You know, when people leave a job, a lot of times someone, you know, smart person will have a job waiting. I remember I did this years back. I was leaving a job that I was contracted for as a teacher. And I thought to myself, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to be stuck in this job. It was a great job. I liked it, but I didn't have a plan afterwards. And I didn't do my research prior to saying, yeah, I'm not going to sign another contract. I put myself in a really bad situation because I was scattering around. I found a job. I was well qualified. I just didn't plan it, right? I didn't plan it. A lot of people that are smart would be like, oh, I'd at least have some things lined up. I thought I had talked to someone and they were like, oh yeah, we hire all the time and we definitely hire you, but they weren't hiring when it was the right time. My point is, some people do this when they break up. Oh yes, you know, I already got eyes on so-and-so. There's no guarantees there, right? So in this particular case, if the situation's not changing, regardless if you break up or not, there's probably going to be another round where she loses it, she gets emotionally unstable, and that's the time for you to be like, all right, I'm done. I don't want to deal with this anymore. All right, we got 12 on deck. Feel free to throw some money in the super chat. If you don't want to do that, that's just fine. If you have a situation you want to talk about, throw it in the comments. I do have a link up. So I would be open to taking a call. You wouldn't have to show your face on video, but if you have a question you want to throw at me on a call, we can do that too and just kind of unpack that. And I know this is a time that I usually am not on. So like I said, it's 11 p.m. for me, which is usually when I'm sleeping. All right. What if your girlfriend makes more money than you? Is that a problem? So the question would be, first of all, if I was to unpack this, what would be the gap? So for example, it would be a big difference if someone made $100,000, if she made $100,000 a year and you make 40, right? I mean, personally, I would think it was a bonus too, Carlo, but I think that's why you ask a question like that and everyone goes, oh yeah, it's more layered than that, right? So number one, it has to do with an individual's ego, right? So for example, if a guy was striving to make partner as a lawyer in a very ego-driven job. I'm not a lawyer. I've known a few. And they're an ego-driven person. It would bother them more. So it has to do with your individual character, right? If they're throwing it in your face. So if the woman might have a problem with it, so women tend to hint. Now, this might throw some people off, and it sounds like a simple ha-ha statement, but actually put it into effect. All jokes are half true. So if you're with a woman and she's made a joke about her making more money than you more than once, and it left a bad taste in your mouth, it's half true to her too. Usually jokes are not just completely false, baseless. They wouldn't be funny then. All right, so this is how I'd break it down, Michael, and good to hear from you, bud. I hope you're doing well. This is how I'd break it down. Great question, by the way. Hypergamy does kick in. So it gets elevated if she's working with other men. So I would say a more difficult situation would be, for example, if she's got a job as a pediatrician. I have no idea what pediatricians make, but doctors generally make a lot of money, right? She's a pediatrician. She has a female receptionist that works with her. She has female nurses. I would say it wouldn't be as big a problem. If she was a principal of a preschool, and predominantly, I think most people would say this, a lot of your teachers at the preschool level and first grade level or whatever are women, right? So she's going to work with a lot of women. If she's we'll go back to lawyers. Let's say she's in a law office and there's, 3 partners and paralegals and all that, and it's like 80% men, that would be more of a threat to your relationship than just the fact that she made more money. Does that make sense? Because her environment, if she's working with a bunch of lawyers, it's more ego driven. She's going to be exposed to more other guys where money is a measure, right? And then how you handle it. So if you're insecure about it, but I would say the bigger problem would be if the workplace she's working at is predominantly successful, high earning men. Doesn't mean that she's going to leave you right away or anything. It just creates more expectation on her end, if that makes sense. Whereas, like I said, where she's making that money counts. If she's making the money from being a crypto trader online, then I don't think it's going to affect you as much. And then it comes down to character and personality. That is it an issue for her? Is it something that she has trouble with? So, for example, there's some women will say some things even in 2023. They're well, that's a man's job, right? Well, men should always make more. It depends on how she's holding it. So I would say that it would be individually based on your partner, but I would say what would be more than meets the eye is the work environment she's making that money in, right? So people have heard about a breakup I've had where an ex was in an environment with all men. From what I know, there was no cheating, but it just creates successful guys that make a lot of money that are around your woman 8 hours a day when her energy's at her best. So think about that. If someone's working a 9 to 5 at a law office, at a place, let's say she's a office manager at a successful electrician place. Now someone's like, what do you mean? Electricians make a lot in California, right? Most of them are men, right? Most of them are men. So tech sales is kind of mixed, I would say. I don't know. I'm from the Bay Area, the mecca of tech, right? But I'm not sure. I will say this, it'll probably be a mixed bag. So like I said, I would be more aware of how many men she's working with closely rather than how much she's making being an issue. Unless she brings it up as an issue and she hints that it's an issue for her. And then also, do you feel uncomfortable? She's a top salesperson in her company. It's a solid mix. So I think that's not a bad situation as much then. I mean, one of the things about that, Michael, is if she's the top salesperson, right? I would say that, let's just say that, there's 20 salespeople and she's number 10 and 5 guys are at the top and she idolizes them or looks up to them. That's another bad situation, right? That's worse than how much money she makes. Well, then if she's never hinted about it, and you're aware of what I mean by that, like hinting or like a little side joke in front of friends. I've had friends that had girlfriends like that where they made more money. I think of one case, and my buddy thought it was cool. She made significantly more money than him. I think she made like 150 and he made like 80, 75 or 80. And she worked for, I don't want to say a prestigious company, but a heavy hitter of like a good company to work for. Great benefits. And ironically, she didn't like the job. Like, she complained about the job, but she would pressure him that he should be making more money for how hard he worked. So it didn't, and they're still together. It didn't necessarily make her cheat or leave him, but she pressured him that he could make more. And like I said, I think at the time he was making 75, 80. This is like 10 years ago, 8 years ago. And that it was decent money between the both of them. And it didn't bother him at all. I think they bought their first house and they cashed in like her 401k or something like that. So, and she came from money. She came from a richer family. So there's a lot of moving parts involved in that. She's pretty feminist and wants to be a breadwinner, all that. So I don't feel pressure. Really, it's more of my own internal pressure. So on an extreme side, I've seen cases, and this doesn't seem to you, but just to put it in perspective of an extreme case where, I mean, if it's 200K to 150 or 150 to 100, and both of you have a potential to earn a lot, I think that that's fine. Where, like I said, if someone's making 150 at at a special company where there's a lot of room to grow, that would be the other thing too. Does a person think that you have room to grow? You're being treated right? Women care about that. Are you working to your fullest potential? So the situation I was talking about earlier, she was pissed because she felt like he was working for a friend and getting underpaid, but he was also getting half of what she made. So the other side to that is I've known multiple guys that they had kids, they were married, they had kids, the wife makes great money, 150, 180 a year, and they weren't always making that much, but they just got to that point. And so when the kid was 1, 2, 3 years old, the guy was out of work or in between jobs, and then they found out daycare is so expensive, he ended up staying home with the kids and being Mr. Mom, which is totally fine. The problem with that is the guy would get really comfortable with that, and it would be his role. He'd be closer to the kids, and then he'd validate it. But then also, even if the woman's like, oh, that's fine, I can do that, the guy becomes bitter. So that's the extreme case where he doesn't work at all and she makes 180 and he takes care of the kids. So there's a trade-off and it works. But the insecurity that's bred from that, because the guy has to tell everyone, well, my wife works and I stay home with the kids. Even though we're in 2023, it's still tough to do that, right? I don't judge people for it. I know guys that do it. It also reverses the feminine masculine because she's handling the money. So if she's handling the money, like, like, well, come to me when you want to get clothes, come to me when you want to get food, when you want to get these things. I remember one guy that I knew that was in this situation was like, oh, I always have to ask for money. You put yourself in that situation. Whereas if one person's making 150 and one person's making 200, no one's asking anyone for money. You're not eating off me, right? You're still you're in the same ballpark. Wants to be a breadwinner, all that. It's my own internal pressure. She sees the ambition of me and work for a big firm, consulting firm, and I'm very ambitious, and she sees it. We'll both make really good money on it. So I think that that's fine. My short answer, I think you answered your own question by explaining that. So the example I gave you earlier was someone, like I said, she's making 150. And like I said, ironically, we all had drinks and we're talking, hated her job, but it was a great job, great company, big money, great benefits. And then she was pissed at him. He had a job he liked more, worked with friends, but made half of what she made. And the part that bothered her is he could go run his own company like that. He could be doing more. So I think women would be more upset if they're ambitious and you're lacking ambition. So I think you're in a good place the way you explain that. If you're both really good, who cares if one person makes a little bit more if you're in the same ballpark, right? If you're making 100 and she's making 200, it's still, by layman terms, not that bad, right? It only becomes a problem if someone's a frugal person and the other see how intricate and layered this is. Someone that makes 200 could be frugal. They could be cheap. And the person that makes 100 grand could be laid back. There could be someone that's, oh, I make the money. It's my pleasure to buy the drinks and buy dinner, hun. And then all of a sudden it's a problem. So those are the things. If those aren't problems now, she's not hinting, she's not making little jokes or comments, I would say you're in a good position. Because like Odd Carlo, I think it's a fat bonus. I think it's great. And if she's, pretty feminist and wants to be a breadwinner, that's fine. Right? Maybe it drives you. One thing I've realized when you're on a good partnership, that might drive you more. Not that you want to be better than them, but you want to level up. And like I said, that hypergamy thing is more related to who she's mingling with at work. And that's one of those things if I have a chapter in a book, it would be hypergamy. Hypergamy is definitely enhanced by the environments individuals are put in. Maybe that's too big of words to put together and too complicated. But like I said, the amount of women I've helped that are nurses cheating with doctors, there's certain environments that are not the best. Definitely drives me more. Well, that's good then. Because you're not directly you're just saying it drives you more. Just like if you had a best friend, that was a roommate or something like that, and he's doing really well, you're happy for him, but you're like, I should be doing that well. I'm capable of that. That's good. I think that's healthy then. And if you have outside people in your ear, like, damn, that's going to be a problem later on, just consider the source. Because sometimes that can happen. You can have an outside friend be like, oh, yeah, that'll be a problem later on. They're just hating. Do you think hypergamy is on the decline because more women are making more money on average nowadays? That's a really good question. I'll go back I'll go back to my point. Like doing breakups for a long time. Oh, where are they? It's very common. Someone goes, oh, they just started a new job 6 months ago, or they started hanging out with new friends. Hypergamy is going to get amplified by the groups they hang out with or the environments they hang out with. That's why if your girlfriend's 26, 27, 28, she's good looking. Okay. Let's just say, I know that red pill irrational male is like 23's the pinnacle. I don't know where that number comes from. I'm sure they have all these kind of stats and things. I mean, to me, a woman from 23 to 29, if she takes care of herself, like, right, she's going to get more attention than a girl that's 38 or a woman that's 38, right? So my point is, if a woman's going to like Friday, Saturday night out with her girlfriends and she's 26, if you guys started out at 22, 23, 24, and that wasn't an issue before because it was rose petals and wine glasses and you loved hanging out, but now she's got a new job with new friends and she's going out to bars and clubs regularly, a bar or a club, you're just putting, I'm not, here's the thing. If they go out once a month, guy or girl, whoever your partner is, or they go out twice a month, you should be invited, number one, right? If it's someone's birthday or it's a girl's night, okay, fine, right? But if it becomes every weekend, that's a problem. And a few of the friends are single, even if the friends aren't single, because even if you trust your girl and you're really secure, she's just putting herself in environment and then throw in alcohol where she's just going to be approached. And that's where hypergamy is more strong, right? Now, if she works at a workplace where it's predominantly successful, rich men, like let's just say, for example, your girl works for a baseball team, a professional baseball team, right? Like, you think she might not hook up with one of the baseball players? Like that's the highest echelon of hypergamy, right? Famous, rich, athletic. That's the highest level, right? So I think that hypergamy is always in play. It's amplified by the environments they're put in. And sometimes people are blind to that, right? It's like, oh, you work for the Giants, hun? Like when I was in my 20s, if I had a girlfriend working for the Giants, I'd be like, oh, that's fucking cool. My girlfriend was really good looking. I remember I had a girlfriend that was pretty good looking. She interned at a TV station, like for the news. The amount, like, and thing is, like, when you're in your 20s, girls will tell you like, oh, he wasn't hitting on me. And it's like, as a guy, you're like, yeah, he was. Right? Any extra attention a guy gives, oh, you know, he was talking to me about the amount of guys that were hitting on her that were news anchors or guys that were guests on the show that were famous, right? It didn't bother me because I was pretty secure, but I also look at it now, and that was an internship, so it was only 3 months or 2 months, and it was like 2 days a week. If that was her full-time job, those are tempting situations. Now, if you're a guy, what's the flip side of that? Right? What's the flip side? Women that I've dealt with that are like, oh, he's a bartender. It's like, really? It's like some people in their late 30s, 40s, they can be bartenders and that's their career job. And she's like, he's really good looking, he's, you know, this and that. It's like, yeah, he gets good tips. He's at a bar 5 nights a week. There's going to be more of a chance of him cheating. If your girlfriend's a bartender, there's going to be more chance that she's cheating. And it's not because she's a hoe or she's for the streets. It's because of the environments, right? It's like, so I would say that the hypergamy is not directly related to the money. It's more related to the environments that are being frequented and the people that she's hanging out with, right? If she's got one of her best friends is highly social and taking to her all these parties and stuff, right? And that can go in the opposite direction. You can have a girlfriend or her friend. I mean, I'm dealing with a client right now where his girlfriend, best friend from childhood, so they're really tight like family, is an alcoholic, likes to go out bar hopping, is highly overweight, right? And he's like, my girlfriend's an alcoholic, and he's blaming the friend. And It's just what people do. They mimic who they hang out with. We all want to be leaders, but if you're in a group long enough, you're going to adapt to that group, and that's what's going to spur hypergamy more than money. If the situation is different, Michael, where the woman comes from a poor family and doesn't have any skills to make money, then it's water in the desert to get a rich guy, right? That's just right. But how rich is enough? So if a woman is with some guy that makes 150K, is it really going to be that much of an upgrade to go with some guy with 250? Depends on how big her ego is. Hypergamy is always in play, but it can be overturned by a good relationship with high attraction, right? If a woman's with a guy that she's attracted to, there's high attraction, because if you think about it, right? And a lot of my clients that are in their early 20s right now, it's huge. Men that are in their early 20s, it's like, she's got to be hot. It's an Instagram culture. And that, you know why? They want to show everyone the picture. Oh, look who I'm hooking up with. Right? Now that might have always been I don't remember that being a case. I'm not like a first class moral etiquette on all that stuff, but now it's like they want to show the picture. Right? So that being said, the bar's higher because of Instagram and these kinds of things, porn. The bar's higher for what's hot, right? So going back to the hypergamy part, a woman's going to always want equal or higher. But if she's with a guy that she's highly attracted to, because women, it's not just looks, it's personality, it's charisma, it's having things in common, and he makes pretty good money and takes care of her well or does those kinds of things, I don't think she's going to be swayed by a guy that makes 200 when she's with a guy that's 100 that she's highly attracted and has a good connection with. I don't think it's going to be as big a deal, right? I will say this, women that probably are career driven, make a lot of money, and spend a lot of time at work, they might be more apt, not always, this isn't a rule, to be with a guy that takes on some of the duties that were traditionally women's. I've heard of guys multiple times, they become the Mr. Mom or the stay-at-home guy, and the woman's a ER nurse, went to Harvard, and she's totally fine with it. Right? It's a kept man. Do you think hypergamy level also factors into looks, charisma, fitness? Yeah, but I'd say that I think what people lose. So an easy way to gauge things is it's never been used more, and I use it more for individually. But a lot of people think, for example, you're with your friends and they're talking. It seems like YouTube uses this a lot, right? Oh, she's a 7. She thinks she's a 10, though. Well, she's a 7 in your eyes. Right? It's like someone was telling me yesterday, oh man, this guy was like, oh, she's a 7. We all laughed at the table because we're like, dude, she's a 2. It's like, to you, attraction is not decided by you. It's decided by the individual. So what's valued in people varies more than you think. Look at certain things people are attracted to. Look at just your friends or family members and different people that they're attracted to or who they end up with, and you're kind of surprised sometimes. So I would say that there's obviously some people that have looks, charisma, fitness, they have it all going and they get more attention. But those people usually end up with other people that are high on that value also. So like I said, hypergamy is always there. And I think I would say one thing that really affects hypergamy now more than making more money, Michael, more than those things you mentioned there, is the fact that Instagram, if a woman could put out a fishing line or a net and just leave it out there and come back to it a month later, she can be in a relationship and she can keep her profile up. I know multiple women that do this. I don't condone it. I actually tell them, like, this is not right. They keep their profile up And, you know, you're fishing while you're with someone. Oh no, I'm not going to get serious with anyone. I just still had it up and I check it every once in a while. It's just too convenient to do. So I'd say if anything, the hypergamy from dating apps and Instagram posts, those are based on like how much they value being on their phone all the time, right? If they're obsessed with checking those kinds of things, ego based, well, there you go. That's a major plus because that's a big issue now. So if you got a girlfriend and you're in your 20s and she's pretty good looking, some guy was just telling me this recently. It's like it's pretty hard to deal with because if she's putting up pictures of her in her bikini and you're proud of that, but on the flip side, she's got 10,000 followers and she gets DMs all the time and you're like, I'm secure, it's cool. You know, she's got a lot of fishing lines out there. I'm not saying it's wrong. Again, you can accept it. You can adapt to it, which means like put some boundaries in place, you know, talk about it, maybe say this is good or this is not good. Or you can just say like, no, you got to delete your account. But I think that's increasing hypergamy more if they're more status based on it. There's women like that for sure. I mean, I've met multiple people on coaching calls that have paid for followers on Instagram. I mean, they weren't proud of it and they were like, oh, you know, yeah, a lot of people do. And I was like, wow. It's someone that pays for followers, they would be more apt to, you know, hypergamy and those kinds of things. So what I would say, Michael, you're a smart guy. You'll notice if she's being affected by a guy at the office or a guy that's in her sphere of influence because she'll mention him a lot and she won't even know she's doing it. It's like, oh yeah, Ron. Yeah, I wasn't even expecting. I was just eating my lunch in the lunchroom, and he joined me again today, and he was so funny because he's been married a few times. Like they start telling you the whole story. Nothing to get alarmed about, but you know that Ron is putting in a little work, and you're like secure, you're all right about it. But if there's like 10 Rons at the job, that's when, and she gets all that attention. Doesn't mean she's going to leave, but she's going to be more irritated with you when you're not doing the right thing. So a sales job, a tech sales job where she's out and about and she works a lot from home, that's fine. She doesn't have to answer to a hierarchy, and she's not influenced by that. That's fine. So just gauge the workplace more than the pay is what I would say. And then you'll know when a name's getting mentioned a lot, or I want to go out with these friends more. And then you got to ask some questions, and then you'll be suspicious especially if you're close. So don't jump to conclusions. Just know that when that time comes, or if something like that comes up, you'll be aware of it. There's nothing you can really do to stop it. You could stay secure. You can ask questions, but it doesn't sound like that's been the case for you. And really, dude, always remember, you know, love and relationships, it's a discovery mission. Like I said, beyond the date, like 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, people can surprise you. More than ever, people are changing who they are, their identities, 6 to 7 months down the road. And that's not personal. You know, Parisa, how are you? I hope you're well. Percy Blue, how you doing, my friend? Odd Carlo, Norway's finest. No context for cartoon. What's good, coach? I hope you're well if you're still on deck. I believe it's living in the States, but originally from Puerto Rico. I think that's a great thing, man, that you're that's really a big plus that your girlfriend doesn't use Instagram. I'm not saying that's so bad for individuals that do. if I didn't use it for coaching to connect with people, because people send me messages sometimes on that, I would be completely okay with not using it at all. Because it's, man, in relationship, social media is a big stickler. Oh, her story on Snap, like she did this, she did that. If she's barely on her phone, that's great. That's good. It sounds like you got a good situation. The questions you ask, as usual, are really good. That's a good question to ask. But like I said, right when you asked, if they make more, if someone makes more money than you in a relationship, unless it's a huge gap and you're a slouch, and you just got to be proud of who you are and have some self-respect. Like I said, the guys that I've known that have become Mr. Moms, their wives are okay with it because they find the value in that. Right? What gets to the guy is the insecurity of answering to the neighbors and the kids' parents at school. Like, oh, so you just stay at home with the kids, and the family members are. So you're the one that stays at home, and like the whispers and the gossip. I think it gets to the guys sometimes. It's not really fair because it's a privilege to be able to take care of your kids full time. And whether that's the dad or the mom, it's a good thing for the kids, I believe. So that's a totally different situation, but I've seen that come up before. All right, I did have one other story. So if anyone else has a question, go ahead and feel free to chime in, specifically on the topic. Thanks for throwing that out there, Michael. If you have a further thing about that, I think I got it pretty good, but feel free. So, hello, Coach Mac. My girlfriend of 8 months just broke up with me and said I was smothering her with texting, and that she couldn't take the 24/7 bombardment of texts. I'll admit I text a lot, and she was okay in the beginning. She told me it feels like I have too much time on my hands. I'll agree I've been on disability for 3 weeks, but I've always texted a lot. All right. I mean, when you're in a relationship, some people text a lot, some don't. Texting is one of those things. It's not good in romantic, serious relationships to do too much because you can't read tone, and you can't read, unless you're doing a voice message, which then you can read tone. You don't realize how much is involved in how a delivery of tone is. Body language and tone are, I forgot what the pie chart is. I bet Mike knows. It's predominant in your communication. So text takes that all out, and people assume that they're interpreting a message. And a lot of times there's a lot of misunderstandings from it. It sounds like here, you're just being annoying. The problem is when someone over texts and the other person doesn't text back enough, then someone gets left on red. They get all insecure. They get upset. They take it personal, and it just snowballs. And if the other person doesn't value the texting as much, it just takes you in two different directions. It's a bad habit in a relationship. You guys should be talking in person, and it's good to miss each other. I've also been more moody with not working and smoking weed more often. All right, so there you go right there. You have too much time on your hands. You're more moody. You're smoking too much. So you got some things you got to work on right now out the gate. Be accountable for those things. You wrote them down. How are you going to go about fixing those? I've also been more, she told me it's okay. We've only been together 8 months, and I'll be able to get over this in a couple weeks. That's kind of her. Sorry for laughing. I mean, translation, that's what she's saying about herself. She's 28 and I'm 22. 6 years isn't a big age gap, but 28 to 22. 22, there's a big wisdom gap to get to your late 20s sometimes. So I don't have a problem with it. People mature differently. There's highly mature 22-year-olds and there's highly immature 28-year-olds. This is my first serious love, and I can't get her out of my head. She already blocked me everywhere and even wrote me an email stating that she knows I've been good to her. but she's just not into guys that are so needy. So newsflash, maybe you're not aware of this at 22 with your first love. Neediness is women repellent. It's not just her. Most women are not attracted to neediness. And really, if you think about it, if you have a needy friend or a coworker, they're annoying as fuck too. Right? Like sometimes I've had a few friends that are needy. It's just like, what do you like? Right? Don't over text me. It's annoying. Right? So like you probably dealt with it outside of partners. She also told me I can do better just to give myself time to grow up. And then she said I'd have fun being single, especially with what she had taught me. This is definitely a no contact situation. So she sends you that email. She blocks you on everything. She's annoyed by your thing. You've only been together 8 months. She's sending you a goodbye email. She's being casual about it. I didn't like that message because it feels so casual to her, and she just used me, I think. I think don't put on a victim state thing. Oh, she just used me. Who used who? You guys were together for 8 months. You had good intimacy. You're 22. You had your first serious experience in love. I think that's wisdom-based. I think you learned some things there. So I think it's a good thing. The fact that you're going to go around, oh, she just used me. Good luck with people feeling sorry for you that you were with a girlfriend that was 28 and telling everyone, oh, she used me for money. You haven't mentioned anything about money. If you think it's because, I mean, don't put labels like that on it. She broke up with you because you texted too much. She said you were too needy. Now you're flipping it to, oh, she used me. That's convenient. My mom said she was never that into me and that women don't date younger guys unless something's wrong with them. Well, I mean, your mom's just throwing something on your side about that. There's plenty of 28 and 22-year-old relationships. It's not that big an age gap. I mean, when it's 10 to 15 years, there's a difference. Age gaps, relationships are tough. 10 to 15 years, those are ones that are tougher to stay longer, but they still work sometimes. That's just your mom trying to make you feel good. Is that true in your experience as a coach? Not a 6-year age gap from 28 to 22. I would just say that it depends on where you're at. If you're in college and she's a waitress, or you're in college and she's a lawyer, I'm just throwing random things out there. It depends on where you're at in life, right? If she's a single mom and you're in a fraternity, it's not going to work, right? So it's where you're at in life. It's not just the age. If I wanted to get her back, is there any way? Definitely, I would definitely say no contact also proves that you're not needy in texting anymore. So the good thing is if you can do that, you immediately fix the problem of over texting, right? And that would surprise her. She's already blocked you. So I know you've probably got a thought of sending her a long email or something. Don't do that. Go straight into no contact, lick your wounds, work on yourself, book a live coaching session with myself if you want to unpack it for an hour and a half or 2 hours and go over everything, right? And do that. And you might be like, oh, well, will this get her back? No, not necessarily, but it'll get you more clear moving forward, right? And if you could prove to her that you're not needy by not contacting her, then there's more of a chance. Whereas if you contact her, you're just proving to her that you're still needy, right? All right. Anyone have any questions? We got 7 on deck, an hour and 18 minutes. It was nice to come on at a different time and just see some new faces or tag names, whatever you call it. Usually I'm on late at night because that's convenient for me. I'll give it a minute here. It's funny, this came up today, this statement of being used. I've had this come up a lot over the years with people in breakups or bad situations and relationships. And I always realize myself, anytime you say that, take a step back. And if you really feel like that's true, what's your role in that? Are you accepting that role? Are you being naive? Are you being manipulated? Are you being gullible? Like, what's your role? Are you just innocently, like when someone gets, like, let's just say, let's go you've probably witnessed someone that's a friend that used someone for money. I mean, I remember in high school, one of the things was like people would use people for rides. Right. If someone had a car, maybe I'm outdated here, but 16 years old, if someone had a car, and not everyone got a car at 16, there would be people that would be instantly 6 people in the car, and they were, I'm your friend. I remember having a car myself, having some friends, and there'd be just some random people that always want to ride that weren't close friends. And then all you got to do is ask yourself, instead of saying, oh, they're just trying to use me. No, you can't get a ride. You don't have to say we're not good friends. Just, you have power in that. So once you identify someone as being disingenuine, if that's a word, you have some power there, right? Once you should be making some moves to deny or reject people from using you. And are you just coming up with that now because you're bitter and upset? Is it a convenient thing to do? Because a lot of times, like in this particular, maybe she just used me, I think, what, for intimacy? So you're a 22-year-old guy and your girlfriend, you like, oh, I've heard guys say this before. Actually, Aleph, that used to come on the show, he was like, oh, she just used me for sex. And it's like everyone's laughing in the live stream because they're like, really? You're a 20-something-year-old guy and you're going to claim that one? Okay, maybe. It's possible. You're not going to get a lot of people coming to your support on that. It's just like when ball players are making hundreds of millions of dollars or 20 million a year, and they're like, oh, I need to get paid. I don't get paid enough. You're not going to get a lot of people feeling sorry for you. All right. So this was good. I really appreciate it. I like to see some new faces here. I'll be back on deck soon. Let me know in the comments if there's any topics you guys want to go over in the future. If you like this live stream, give it a like. If you don't like it, that's fine. Otherwise, it's been good. It's curtains for me. I'm going to go to sleep. Take care, folks.